The 19-year-old Alphonso Davies, who had a brilliant performance tonight against Barcelona, how far off is he from becoming the best attacking fullback in the world?
Hansi just doesn't want me to play just strictly left back. Obviously, he wants me to, I join the attack as well.
Alphonso Davies became the best left back in the world under Hansi Flick. At Bayern, they won everything together, and now the German manager has moved to Barcelona, where there happens to be the player most similar to the Canadian in all of world football. But before we look into Balde, let's look back into the past to see what happened to Davies under the German manager, because under Hansi Flick, Alejandro Balde might just be insane. Hansi Flick's Bayern Munich might as well have been the most exciting team in world football that we've seen in the past decade. The side pressed very high and constantly overwhelmed their opponents to force turnovers and create chances, and obviously this worked. It won them 6 trophies in total and brought them to the top of world football, but I'm not sure that would have happened without Alphonso Davies. Not only was the Canadian creatively very solid, offering an additional outlet to the flanks, often underlapping or running into the half spaces between the opposition fullback and center back, but because of his pure athleticism and defensive capacity as well. Now, Davies wasn't a wonderful defender. If he was criticized for anything that season, it was for his one-on-one defending ability. I wouldn't have wanted him facing up against a winger in the same way I would confidently with Rudiger or Saliba or somebody like that. But there was one thing that he offered the team defensively that allowed them to play that extraordinarily attacking football, and it's his speed. Yeah, that may have been obvious to a lot of you, but it's because of his speed and his capacity to run back and cover when being countered that allowed that team to press up so freely, push so many players into the opposition half without worrying too much about being countered, because they had the speed of Alphonso Davies to cover them if there was any worry. He also had enough fuel in his tank to press forward as well, to try to force a turnover while being able to run all the way back to his own box and try to recover his defensive position. That part of his game was unparalleled in world football at the time, with the exception of maybe Kyle Walker, and that allowed that Bayern team to be great under Hansi Flick. I don't know if the German manager's team could have been as successful without the Canadian. He gave them the confidence to move forward, to play their football, and they might not have had it without him. On top of all of that, the threat of Davies going forward with his pace, his one-on-one ability, and his final ball quality gave opponents another thing to worry about on that left side. So instead of pushing up far when they had the ball, their opponents had to be worried about covering the expansive runs of Davies, and so that probably restricted his side. I know I just complimented Davies' transitional defense wonderfully, but he was great going forward as well. We've all seen what he did to Barcelona in the 8-2 match. That guy can pretty handedly take on defenders and create chances for his teammates that become even more fruitful because of his quality of his final ball. He constantly put in very solid crosses, and it just seemed to be on a different wavelength with Lewandowski in 2020. That season, Davies scored 3 goals and assisted 9 while playing in around 3,500 minutes for Bayern Munich. That's a great season, but when you add on that he was only 19 years old in his first full season with the Bavarian side, it becomes even more impressive. Now, a lot of his success going forward probably had to do with the fact that he played primarily as a left winger for the Whitecaps in the MLS before making the move to Europe, but to have that much of a standout season in your first full year all over the pitch, well, it probably would take a special relationship and trust from the manager to get you there. So Hansi Flick was maybe just as responsible as Alphonso Davies was for the success of Davies that season. And to be fair, Davies has not been the same monster that he was since Hansi Flick left. Now, neither has Bayern, but Davies has fallen out of form in the past year or so and looks a bit like a shadow of himself. Not only is he seeing more of the bench than the pitch, but he's also giving the ball away a lot more than he had been under Hansi. Now, in no way is this a criticism of Davies. I think he is a wonderful player, and he did a wonderful job of putting North America on the map, of creating top footballers when really no other player could do that. However, the fact is, he hasn't been the same. I think he will be good again for wherever he goes next. I think he just has to get out of Germany, and I'm going to be excited to see him play wherever it is, even if it's Real Madrid. However, now Hansi Flick is at Barcelona and has a kid in basically the exact profile of the Canadian on his bench. So how's Alejandro Balde gonna fare under the Germans' instruction? Well, first, let's take a little bit of a deeper look into the Spanish left back. Coming out of La Masia, he wasn't exactly an unknown player, and in fact, the scouting reports on him while he was still with the youth team touted him as a very qualified attacking fullback with pace and the ability to put in a very good cross. Balde first got a chance to show his stuff under Ronald Koeman in the summer of 2020, but wouldn't see much of the pitch that season. He was only 17 and Jordi Alba was playing very good football, but then Xavi came and flipped the script in the 22-23 season. From the point that Barcelona were knocked out of the Champions League against Inter Milan, Balde was the main starter at left back, sometimes even covering for right back, and the kid shined. In his first 200 minutes played, he tallied 2 assists and seemed to be pretty threatening whenever he got on the ball. He constantly made daring runs and hit some decent crosses while contributing solidly on defense as well. He used his pace to compensate for any positional awareness that he lacked, and he showed a good hunger and desire to fight for the badge and show some passion on the pitch. For this, Xavi rewarded him with more and more playing time that year, being an uncontested cog in one of the best defensive teams for a very long time. Balde was fantastic that year, very well deserved all the credit he got as one of the world's most promising young players and one of the best fullbacks in the world. However, at the start of the 23-24 season, everything went a bit differently. In the first half of the year, he didn't look like the same player at all. But to be fair, neither did the rest of the team. They were so inconsistent, and so I think the only players that shined at the time at all were Lamine Yamal and Joao Cancelo, but it just got worse for Alejandro Balde. There were several instances where I saw him look uninterested or just not work as hard as I might have expected him to be able to do, considering how good he was the season before. Now, I don't think he was bad by any means, but those dangerous overlapping runs were just not coming as often, and he didn't make as many strong recoveries on defense either. However, this could be up to Xavi's tactics, or maybe he had an injury he wasn't telling anybody about, but it just seemed like he wasn't the same. He wasn't playing the same, he wasn't getting the same regards, and he looked a bit flat, and that all led to him getting injured on January 24th, which would follow with a hamstring surgery that would end his season. And that's where we are today, but now Hansi Flick is here, and so a role in the squad looks perfectly poised for Balde to fit in once he comes back, but I'm not sure how that'll play out. I think he can be fantastic, as Flick's fullbacks don't necessarily have to remain on the touchline like Xavi was asking of Balde earlier this season, and where he just didn't look great taking on players one-on-one. He just can't really face up a defender that well, or at least wasn't doing it this season. He couldn't pull off the body feint or create much separation to put in a cross enough this season. I was calling for it several times. I even made a video criticizing him for it, but under Hansi Flick, he can play a different role, now underlapping against the left winger, and he seems to excel a lot more in those spaces than he does as the widest player. Davies, in my opinion, was much better taking players one-on-one and creating that space for himself. He seemed to just be a little bit more agile than Balde was this year, so they're not the exact same player. However, they can still work out in similar ways. With Barca looking to sign a proper left winger, and with it potentially being Nico Williams, a very close friend of Alejandro Balde, well, that could create the space where Balde has the ability to underlap, to fill in that space, to run between defenders instead of taking them on himself, run into space, run into the ball, and hopefully be more successful there. However, my biggest question for Alejandro Balde is, what is his work rate going to look like? Is it going to be more like he worked out in 22-23, helping the team beat one of the best defensive teams in history? Or is it going to be more like we saw this season, staying forward more, not running back as much, and leaving space in behind? Again, I'm not sure if that was Xavi's tactics or what that was. The fact is, he didn't come back and defend in the same way, especially the way that we need him. He is a good defender, and I would argue a better defender than Alphonso Davies, so this season could have gone much differently if we had him instead of Joao Cancelo on the left against PSG. I digress. But I wouldn't be surprised if this new desire and this fire that Hansi Flick is bringing to the squad to succeed, to maybe be a little bit different, can light up Alejandro Balde in a way we haven't seen in a little while when he comes back from injury. Now, we don't know how he's going to come back. He could come back a little bit slower, but I think he can still fit that profile because he is a strong player. The scary truth of Alejandro Balde is that he could very easily turn into one of the best fullbacks in the world under Hansi Flick, but he could also not, and so we'll just have to wait and see. That might be obvious, but I wanted to be realistic and put both sides out there of what could happen. However, the team is doing a good job of fostering a community where these team and these players want to work together, especially if they bring in Nico Williams. I think that can have a wonderful outcome for Alejandro Balde. I don't know if it's going to happen. Barcelona's money shot. I think it definitely could, and it would be interesting to see him light up the pitch again, especially under Hansi Flick. But that's Balde. Let me know what you think's going to happen with him, and I want to announce to you that on Thursday, June 20th, I will be live streaming the Spain versus Italy match on this new website called Tifo. It's a new live streaming platform that's going to cover mostly sports watch-alongs, and I'm very excited because it helps us create a little bit of a stronger community as the chat has a better role in the stream. I have the ability to bring one of you guys up on as guests. You can also have conversations separately outside of the chat in this thing called Threads, and it's just a better way for all of us to kind of get to know each other without having to watch any ads. There are no ads on the website right now, and it's completely free to sign up. So make sure you sign up. Go to the link in this description. Make sure you use my code ROLU because that just allows you to get in because it is in a beta right now. So check it out. I'll be live there. I'll be live there a few times throughout the Euros and the Copa America so we can watch some football together. Again, link in the description. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out this video about Luke de Jong, or check out this video about the tour of my YouTube closet here, because this is going to be the last video filmed in the closet ever. I'm moving, but thank you for watching. Thank you for going on this journey with me, and I'm excited to move forward and make other videos. Visca Barca. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.